Most people wake up in fear. They wake up thinking about bills, debt, stress, and lack. And without realizing it, they seal their day in scarcity before it even begins. The first 60 seconds after you wake up are unlike any other moment of the day, and most people completely underestimate how powerful this window truly is. When your eyes open in the morning, your mind has not yet been flooded with noise, pressure, or outside influence. You are not reacting yet. You are receptive. Your subconscious is still closed to the surface, meaning whatever you introduce into your awareness at that moment sinks deeper and lasts longer. This is why the very first thought, feeling, or sentence you allow into your mind in the morning quietly programs the direction of your entire day. Many people wake up and immediately check their phone, think about bills, replay yesterday's stress, or worry about what might go wrong. Without realizing it, they are planting seeds of lack before they even stand up. Over time, these repeated mornings shape not only emotional patterns but financial ones as well. Scarcity does not always begin with circumstances. Very often it begins with the first thought of the day. When you wake up and intentionally speak words of gratitude, something subtle but profound happens inside you, saying thank you for today, before anything else interrupts the automatic cycle of fear and replaces it with trust. You are making a declaration that today is already meaningful before it produces anything. This matters because the human brain is wired to look for confirmation. If you begin the day with gratitude, your mind starts scanning for reasons to justify that gratitude. You notice opportunities instead of obstacles. You recognize solutions instead of problems. You respond instead of react. This shift may seem small, but compounded over time, it changes how you move through the world, how you speak to people, how you handle setbacks, and how you make decisions around money. Wealth rarely comes from one dramatic event. It grows out of patterns of thinking, choosing, and acting. The first minute of the morning quietly influences all three. When you begin the day feeling supported rather than threatened, you are less likely to make fear-based financial decisions. You are less likely to rush, undersell yourself, accept less than you are worth, or sabotage opportunities because of self-doubt. Gratitude stabilizes your inner state, and a stable inner state creates consistency. Consistency is what attracts trust, collaboration, and long-term financial growth. People are naturally drawn to those who move with calm confidence rather than panic, and opportunities tend to flow toward individuals who appear grounded and prepared. There is also a deeper dimension to this practice that goes beyond psychology. Gratitude positions you as a receiver rather than a chaser. When you wake up saying thank you for today, you are acknowledging that life is giving, not withholding. This mindset subtly removes desperation from your actions. Instead of chasing money with tension and force, you begin to move with openness and clarity. You stop trying to control every outcome and start recognizing doors as they open. Many people work hard but repel abundance because their energy is rooted in fear. Fear of not having enough, fear of losing, fear of being behind. Gratitude dissolves that fear at the source before it has a chance to shape the day. Over time, this daily practice trains your nervous system to expect good rather than brace for loss. When your body and mind are not in survival mode, creativity becomes available. Ideas come more easily. Solutions appear faster. You begin to see connections you previously missed. Creativity is one of the most underrated drivers of wealth because income often increases when you solve problems in new ways or notice value others overlook. A grateful mind is a relaxed mind, and a relaxed mind is far more capable of insight and innovation than one trapped in stress. What makes this practice so powerful is not its complexity, but its consistency. 4 simple words spoken every morning may feel insignificant at first, but repetition is what turns intention into identity. After days and weeks of beginning your mornings with gratitude, you start to carry that posture into the rest of your life. You speak differently, you listen differently, you respond to challenges with composure instead of collapse, and when challenges arise, as they always do, you recover faster. Resilience is a form of wealth because it allows you to continue moving forward without losing momentum. Many people fail not because opportunities never came, but because discouragement drained their energy before results could compound. This practice also reframes time itself. Instead of waking up feeling behind, you wake up feeling present. Instead of racing the clock, you step into the day with intention. This reduces impulsive behavior, especially around money. You pause before spending. You think before reacting. You evaluate rather than escape discomfort. These small shifts protect resources and create space for growth. Financial stability is often built by avoiding unnecessary losses as much as by creating new gains. In conclusion, the power of saying thank you for today. The moment you wake up lies in its ability to reshape your inner environment before the outer world makes its demands. It is not a magic phrase that causes money to fall from the sky, but it is a foundational habit that aligns your mind, emotions, and actions with abundance rather than scarcity. By honoring the first 60 seconds of your day, you take control of the direction your thoughts travel and the quality of decisions you make. Over time, this alignment compounds into clarity, confidence, resilience, and opportunity, the true building blocks of wealth. When gratitude becomes your starting point, abundance stops feeling distant and starts feeling natural, and that shift changes everything. Most people do not realize that they are quietly training their minds for lack every single morning, long before money ever becomes part of the conversation. The programming begins the moment their eyes open. Before they speak to anyone, before they take action, before the day even starts, an internal script begins to play. Thoughts like "I'm already late," "I don't want to do this," "I have too many problems," or "How am I going to pay for everything?" surface automatically. These thoughts feel harmless because they are familiar, but familiarity does not mean neutrality. Repeated thoughts form expectations, and expectations shape behavior. When this pattern repeats daily, scarcity stops being a circumstance and becomes a mindset that quietly governs choices, reactions, and outcomes. The brain is designed to conserve energy, so it defaults to habits. Morning thoughts are often leftovers from yesterday's stress, unfinished worries, or unresolved fear. When people wake up and immediately replay these concerns, they reinforce the belief that life is heavy and resources are limited. Over time, this creates a subtle emotional posture of defense. Instead of approaching the day with curiosity or confidence, the body enters a low-grade survival mode. In this state, people become reactive rather than intentional. They rush decisions, avoid risks, and cling to what feels safe, even when safe is keeping them stuck. Financial growth rarely happens in this mental posture, because growth requires clarity, patience, and a willingness to see beyond immediate pressure. What makes this programming so powerful is that it feels logical. Bills are real, responsibilities are real, past failures are real, but starting the day by mentally listing everything that could go wrong does not solve those problems, it amplifies them. When the mind is flooded with fear-based thinking early in the morning, it filters the rest of the day through that lens. Neutral events are interpreted negatively. Small obstacles feel like proof of failure. Opportunities are overlooked because the mind is too busy protecting itself from imagined loss. In this way, lack becomes self-reinforcing. The person believes they are being realistic, but in reality, they are rehearsing scarcity. This unconscious rehearsal also affects how people relate to money itself. When someone wakes up already feeling behind, money becomes associated with anxiety and urgency. They chase it, rush it, or make decisions out of pressure rather than strategy. They may accept poor deals, underprice their work, or avoid asking for what they deserve because they fear rejection or instability. Others swing in the opposite direction, using impulsive spending as temporary relief from stress. Both behaviors are rooted in the same morning mindset, a belief that there is not enough time, not enough support, and not enough margin for error. These patterns are rarely questioned because they feel automatic, but they silently drain momentum. Another hidden cost of this daily programming is emotional fatigue. Waking up in worry consumes energy before the day even begins. By mid-morning, many people already feel drained, not because of physical effort, but because of mental resistance. This fatigue reduces focus and persistence, two essential qualities for building anything meaningful, including wealth. When energy is low, people procrastinate, abandon plans too quickly, or fail to follow through consistently. Over time, they begin to see themselves as incapable or unlucky, further reinforcing the scarcity narrative. The problem was never ability. It was the story being told every morning. Social interactions are also affected by this mindset. A person who starts the day in lack often communicates it unconsciously through tone, body language, and word choice. They may appear tense, doubtful, or closed off. This can impact negotiations, collaborations, and even simple conversations that could lead to opportunity. People are naturally drawn to those who seem grounded and confident, not because confidence guarantees success, but because it signals stability. When someone consistently shows up already stressed and overwhelmed, others may hesitate to trust them with responsibility, leadership, or investment. Again, the cause is not talent, but internal programming. Breaking this cycle requires awareness first. Most people do not choose lack. They inherit it through repetition. They repeat what they have always done because no one taught them that the morning mind is moldable. The moment of waking is when the subconscious is most impressionable, and whatever fills that space tends to guide the rest of the day. When that space is filled with worry, comparison, or complaint, scarcity becomes the default operating system. The tragedy is that this happens quietly, without dramatic warning signs, until years pass and little has changed. The shift begins when someone realizes that they do not have to solve their entire life the moment they wake up. They do not have to predict the day, fix the future, or relive the past before leaving the bed. Simply interrupting the automatic negative script creates space for a new pattern to form. This does not mean ignoring reality or pretending problems do not exist. It means choosing not to let fear be the first voice that speaks. Over time, this interruption weakens the old habit and creates room for clarity, patience, and better decision-making. In conclusion, most people remain stuck financially not because they lack intelligence, effort, or opportunity, but because they unknowingly train their minds for scarcity every morning. The first thoughts of the day quietly shape expectations, emotions, and behaviors that compound over time. When lack is rehearsed daily, it becomes familiar, and familiarity feels normal even when it is destructive. Recognizing this pattern is the first step toward change. The moment someone stops waking up in fear and stops letting yesterday's worries dictate today's mindset, they begin to reclaim control. Wealth does not begin with money, it begins with awareness. And awareness, practiced consistently at the start of the day, has the power to rewrite the story entirely. When a person shifts from a mindset of lack to a mindset of trust, the change is not loud or dramatic, but it is deeply transformative. Many people believe that wealth is unlocked by effort alone, working harder, pushing longer, or forcing results. While effort matters, the inner posture behind that effort matters even more. A life driven by desperation feels heavy, rushed, and tense. A life guided by trust feels steady, focused, and open. Gratitude is the bridge between these two states. It does not deny challenges, but it changes how you relate to them. and that shift is where real alignment begins. Trust alters the way the mind interprets reality. When someone starts the day in gratitude, they are implicitly saying, "I am supported, even if I cannot see how yet." This single belief removes panic from the nervous system. Instead of bracing for impact, the body relaxes. When the body is relaxed, the mind becomes clearer. Clarity leads to better judgment, and better judgment leads to better outcomes. Many financial mistakes are not made because people lack information, but because fear clouds their thinking. Gratitude reduces that fear at the root by reminding the mind that the present moment is already survivable, already meaningful, already enough to stand on. This shift from desperation to trust also changes how people pray, plan, and pursue their goals. Desperation sounds like begging, constantly asking, worrying, and trying to control outcomes. Trust sounds like cooperation, doing what is required while remaining open to timing and guidance. When gratitude is present, people stop treating money as a savior and start treating it as a tool. This distinction matters. When money is idolized, it creates anxiety and attachment. When money is respected but not worshipped, it can flow more freely. People make calmer decisions, negotiate more confidently, and walk away from situations that compromise their values or long-term stability. Another powerful effect of gratitude-based trust is patience. Impatience is one of the biggest destroyers of wealth. It causes people to chase shortcuts, fall for false promises, or abandon strategies too early. Trust slows the internal clock. Instead of needing immediate results to feel safe, a person becomes willing to build steadily. They invest in skills, relationships, and systems that compound over time. This long-term thinking is essential for sustainable success, but it is almost impossible to maintain when the mind is consumed by urgency and fear. Gratitude anchors the present moment, allowing patience to grow naturally. Trust also improves resilience. Financial journeys are never linear. There are delays, setbacks, and moments of uncertainty, no matter how disciplined or talented someone is. When a person's inner foundation is desperation, every setback feels personal and devastating. They question themselves, lose confidence, and sometimes quit entirely. When the foundation is trust, setbacks are interpreted as feedback rather than failure. The person remains emotionally regulated, adjusts their approach, and continues moving forward. This emotional resilience keeps momentum alive, and momentum is one of the most valuable assets in any pursuit. Social dynamics are also transformed through this shift. People who operate from trust tend to communicate more calmly and authentically. They listen better. They speak with clarity instead of pressure. This makes them more credible and easier to work with. In professional environments, trust-based individuals are often perceived as leaders, even without formal titles. Others sense their stability and are more willing to collaborate, invest, or offer opportunities. Many doors open not because someone asked aggressively, but because they carried themselves with quiet confidence and emotional balance. Gratitude also sharpens intuition. When the mind is not overwhelmed by fear, it becomes more sensitive to subtle cues, timing, tone, and instinct. People begin to sense when to move and when to wait, when to say yes and when to decline. This discernment is invaluable in financial matters, where timing and judgment can make a significant difference. Intuition is not mystical. It is the mind's ability to process information holistically. Fear drowns out this signal. Trust amplifies it. Over time, living in trust reshapes identity. A person no longer sees themselves as someone trying to survive, but as someone capable of stewardship. This identity shift influences behavior in profound ways. They become more disciplined with resources, more generous without fear, and more confident in their worth. Generosity, in particular, becomes possible when trust is present, not reckless giving, but intentional sharing that flows from abundance rather than obligation. This generosity strengthens relationships and creates goodwill, both of which are powerful forms of wealth. What makes this transformation sustainable is that it is rooted in a daily practice, not a one-time decision. Trust grows through repetition. Each morning that begins with gratitude reinforces the belief that life is not working against you. Each day lived from that belief compounds into a calmer nervous system, clearer thinking, and stronger decision-making. Over months and years, these internal shifts manifest externally as improved finances, healthier relationships, and greater opportunities. In conclusion, moving from desperation to trust is one of the most important shifts a person can make on the path to wealth. Gratitude is not a superficial habit or a motivational trick. It is a grounding force that realigns the mind, body, and emotions with stability and openness. When trust replaces fear, decisions become wiser, patience replaces urgency, and resilience replaces collapse. Wealth, in its truest sense, grows best in an environment of calm confidence and clarity. By choosing gratitude at the start of each day, a person creates that environment from within, allowing abundance to unfold naturally over time rather than being forced through struggle. When a person consistently begins the day in gratitude, the most noticeable shift is not emotional but practical. Decisions start to change. These changes are often small and almost invisible at first, yet they compound into powerful financial outcomes over time. The way someone thinks in the morning influences how they prioritize, how they respond to pressure, and how they evaluate opportunities. A grateful mindset does not make someone passive or unrealistic. It makes them intentional. Instead of reacting impulsively to circumstances, they begin to choose with clarity, and clarity is one of the greatest drivers of financial growth. One of the first changes that occurs is in risk assessment. People who wake up anxious tend to either avoid risk completely or take reckless risks out of desperation. Both extremes are harmful. Gratitude stabilizes emotions, allowing a person to evaluate risks logically rather than emotionally. They are able to ask better questions. Is this aligned with my long-term goals? Does this opportunity require urgency, or am I being pressured? Is this decision rooted in growth or fear? These questions prevent costly mistakes and help preserve resources. Over time, avoiding even a few bad decisions can have a dramatic impact on financial stability. Gratitude also improves focus. When the mind is scattered by worry, attention is fragmented, tasks feel heavier, and productivity suffers. A person may work long hours but produce little of real value. Starting the day grounded allows the mind to concentrate on what truly matters. Instead of multitasking out of anxiety, they prioritize high-impact actions. They follow through more consistently and waste less time on distractions that offer momentary relief but no lasting benefit. This improved focus leads to better performance, which often results in increased income, recognition, or advancement. Another subtle but powerful effect is the shift in self-worth. People who operate from scarcity often undervalue themselves without realizing it. They may hesitate to ask for fair compensation, delay raising prices, or tolerate situations that drain their energy because they fear losing security. Gratitude reinforces a sense of enoughness. When someone feels supported internally, they are more likely to advocate for themselves externally. They communicate boundaries more clearly and make choices that reflect their true value. Over time, this alignment between self-worth and action creates healthier financial relationships and more sustainable income streams. Gratitude also influences spending habits. A person who begins the day feeling lacking is more prone to emotional spending. Purchases become a way to escape stress or feel momentarily in control. When gratitude is present, spending becomes more intentional. The person distinguishes between wants and needs with greater clarity. They are less driven by impulse and more guided by purpose. This does not mean they become restrictive or joyless, but rather that their spending aligns with their values. This alignment prevents debt accumulation and supports long-term financial goals. In professional and business environments, gratitude enhances communication. People who are emotionally regulated listen better, respond thoughtfully, and negotiate with confidence rather than tension. This improves outcomes in meetings, contracts, and collaborations. Others sense this calm confidence and are more willing to trust, recommend, or invest. Many opportunities arise not from aggressive self-promotion, but from being perceived as reliable and composed under pressure. Gratitude contributes to this perception by reducing emotional volatility. Consistency is another area deeply affected by a grateful mindset. Many people start projects or financial plans with enthusiasm, only to abandon them when results are slow. Gratitude strengthens perseverance by reducing the emotional dependency on immediate outcomes. A person becomes willing to show up daily, even when progress feels incremental. This steady commitment is essential for building wealth, which rarely arrives overnight. Consistency turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results through accumulation. Over time, these daily decision improvements reshape a person's trajectory. Better risk management, clearer focus, stronger self-worth, intentional spending, improved communication, and consistent action all stem from the same source, a calm, grounded inner state. Gratitude creates that state. It does not remove challenges, but it equips the person to navigate them skillfully. The compounding effect of thousands of small, wise decisions eventually becomes visible as financial stability, growth, and opportunity. In conclusion, wealth is built less by dramatic moments and more by daily choices made under pressure. The mindset a person brings into the day determines the quality of those choices. Gratitude, practiced consistently at the start of each morning, stabilizes emotions and sharpens judgment. This leads to better financial decisions that compound quietly over time. While gratitude itself is not currency, it shapes the behaviors and habits that generate it. When someone learns to begin each day grounded and intentional, they stop leaking energy and resources through fear-based choices. In that steady, aligned state, wealth becomes not something chased, but something gradually and naturally built. When gratitude becomes a daily practice, especially at the very beginning of the day, it quietly reshapes how a person notices and responds to opportunities. Many people believe opportunities are rare events that appear randomly or are reserved for a lucky few. In reality, opportunities are often subtle, frequent, and easy to miss when the mind is clouded by stress or negativity. A grateful mindset sharpens awareness. It trains the brain to look for what is working instead of obsessing over what is missing. This shift changes perception, and perception determines what you recognize as possible. A mind rooted in scarcity is usually narrow and defensive. It scans the environment for threats, problems, and reasons to hesitate. When someone wakes up feeling pressured or fearful, they unconsciously filter out information that does not seem immediately safe or familiar. New ideas feel risky, conversations feel draining, invitations feel inconvenient. Even when an opportunity appears, it may be dismissed as unrealistic or not for someone like me. Gratitude widens perception. It tells the mind that the present moment is already survivable and meaningful, which reduces the need to constantly protect oneself. In this open state, possibilities that were once invisible begin to stand out. This heightened awareness affects everyday interactions in powerful ways. A grateful person listens more attentively because they are not preoccupied with internal worry. They notice tone, timing, and intent. They pick up on hints, suggestions, and needs that others overlook. Many opportunities come disguised as casual conversations, small requests, or offhand comments. When someone is mentally present and emotionally regulated, they can recognize these moments and respond thoughtfully. Over time, this responsiveness leads to connections, collaborations, and chances that seem coincidental, but are actually the result of consistent awareness. Gratitude also influences how people interpret setbacks, which directly affects opportunity recognition. When something does not work out, a scarcity mindset treats it as confirmation of failure or bad luck. This interpretation narrows future behavior. The person becomes more cautious, less willing to try again, and more likely to withdraw. A grateful mindset interprets setbacks differently. Instead of seeing them as dead ends, they are seen as redirection or information. This keeps the person engaged rather than discouraged. Staying engaged is crucial because opportunities often appear after persistence, not before. Another important effect of gratitude is timing. Opportunities are not only about what appears, but about when someone is ready to act. Fear creates hesitation or impulsiveness, both of which distort timing. Gratitude stabilizes emotions, allowing a person to move neither too early nor too late. They are more patient, yet decisive when clarity arises. This balance improves outcomes dramatically. Acting at the right moment often matters more than the opportunity itself, and gratitude supports that discernment by keeping the mind calm and attentive. Gratitude also changes how a person is perceived by others, which directly impacts opportunity flow. People tend to offer opportunities to those they trust, respect, and feel comfortable around. A person who consistently shows appreciation, presence, and emotional steadiness becomes someone others want to involve. They are seen as reliable and grounded. This reputation is built quietly over time through daily interactions. Opportunities often come through people, not events, and gratitude strengthens the social fabric through which these opportunities travel. Over time, this pattern creates momentum. Recognizing one opportunity leads to experience, which builds confidence. Confidence improves decision-making, which leads to better outcomes. Better outcomes reinforce gratitude, completing a positive feedback loop. This loop is the opposite of the scarcity cycle that keeps many people stuck. Instead of missing chances due to fear or distraction, the person becomes increasingly aligned with growth. Opportunities no longer feel rare or overwhelming. They feel natural and manageable. It is important to understand that gratitude does not mean passively waiting for opportunities to arrive. It means being mentally present and emotionally available to notice and act on what is already unfolding. Many opportunities are missed not because they were too small, but because the person was too distracted or discouraged to see them. Gratitude clears that mental noise. It creates space for curiosity, engagement, and initiative. These qualities are essential for progress in any financial or professional path. In conclusion, gratitude fundamentally changes how opportunities are perceived, interpreted, and acted upon. By shifting attention from lack to presence, it expands awareness and sharpens discernment. A grateful mindset keeps a person engaged through setbacks, improves timing, strengthens relationships, and builds a reputation that attracts further opportunities. Over time, this creates a steady flow of growth that feels almost effortless, not because life has become easier, but because the person has become more aligned with what is available. Wealth often grows not from chasing more, but from seeing more, and gratitude is the lens that makes that vision possible. Consistency is the quiet force that turns simple words into real-world results, and without it, even the most powerful ideas remain nothing more than inspiration. Many people hear meaningful concepts, feel motivated for a moment, and even believe deeply in what they are doing, but they stop too soon. They expect instant transformation, and when it does not appear quickly, they assume the practice does not work. In reality, the issue is not the words themselves, but the lack of repetition. The human mind and nervous system are shaped through patterns, not moments. What you repeat daily becomes what you believe, and what you believe eventually becomes how you live. When someone says the same intentional words every morning, especially at the moment of waking, they are not just speaking, they are training their inner environment. Each repetition reinforces a message to the subconscious. This is how I start my day. This is how I relate to life. This is what I expect. At first, the words may feel mechanical or symbolic, but repetition gives them weight. Over time, the mind begins to accept them as truth. This acceptance changes emotional reactions, which then influence behavior. Consistency bridges the gap between intention and identity. One of the reasons consistency is so powerful is because it bypasses resistance. Big changes often trigger fear or self-doubt, causing people to sabotage themselves. Small, repeated actions feel safe. Saying a few words each morning does not threaten the ego or overwhelm the system, so the mind allows it. Yet these small actions accumulate quietly. Each day reinforces the last, and before the person realizes it, their baseline emotional state has shifted. They feel calmer, more grounded, and less reactive. This new baseline becomes the foundation for better decisions, especially around money, work, and relationships. Consistency also creates emotional reliability. Life is unpredictable, but a consistent morning practice becomes an anchor. No matter what happened yesterday or what might happen today, the day begins the same way. This stability reduces internal chaos. When emotions are regulated, the mind can think clearly under pressure. Clear thinking leads to better choices, and better choices repeated over time lead to better outcomes. Many people underestimate how much inconsistency drains energy. Starting over mentally every day is exhausting. Consistency removes that burden by providing continuity. Another critical aspect of consistency is trust, building both internally and externally. Internally, when someone keeps a promise to themselves every day, even a small one, self-trust grows. They begin to see themselves as someone who follows through. This identity shift is powerful. A person who trusts themselves is more likely to take calculated risks, commit to long-term goals, and remain disciplined when motivation fades. Externally, consistent behavior makes a person more reliable to others. Reliability attracts opportunities, partnerships, and financial stability because people feel safe investing time, resources, or trust in someone who shows up predictably. Consistency also compounds in subtle ways. One day of intentional words may not feel life-changing, but 30 days create momentum. 90 days reshape habits. A year rewires identity. This is how lasting change happens. Not through intensity, but through endurance. The same principle applies to wealth, building itself. Income grows through steady effort, wise decisions, and patience. Consistent inner alignment supports consistent outer action. When the inner world is stable, the outer world becomes easier to manage. There is also a neurological dimension to consistency. Repeated thoughts strengthen neural pathways. The brain becomes more efficient at accessing those patterns. When gratitude, trust, or intention is repeated daily, it becomes the brain's default response. Instead of defaulting to worry or scarcity, the mind begins to default to calm and confidence. This shift reduces stress hormones and improves focus, energy, and creativity. These physiological changes directly affect performance, productivity, and resilience, all of which influence financial outcomes. Many people abandon consistency because they mistake boredom for failure. When a practice becomes familiar, they assume it has stopped working. In truth, familiarity is a sign that the practice is integrating. The deepest changes often happen beneath the surface, before any visible results appear. Consistency requires faith in the process, not constant emotional reward. This patience itself is a form of wealth because it trains the mind to value long-term growth over immediate gratification. Consistency also protects against emotional extremes. Without it, people swing between hope and discouragement, motivation and burnout. A consistent daily practice smooths these swings. It creates emotional balance, which is essential for sustained progress. Balanced people recover faster from setbacks and remain steady during success. This steadiness prevents self-sabotage, which is one of the most common obstacles to financial growth. In conclusion, consistency is what transforms simple words into lasting change. It trains the mind, stabilizes emotions, builds self-trust, and creates the inner conditions necessary for wise decisions and sustained effort. While the words spoken each morning may be brief, their impact grows through repetition. Over time, consistency turns intention into identity and belief into behavior. Wealth in its truest form is built the same way, quietly, steadily, and through daily alignment. When a person commits to showing up for themselves every morning, they begin to create results that no single moment of motivation could ever produce. When a practice is repeated daily, it stops being something you do and starts becoming part of who you are. This is the deepest and most powerful stage of change because identity drives behavior even when motivation disappears. Many people struggle financially not because they lack knowledge or opportunity, but because their self-image is unconsciously working against them. They may see themselves as unlucky, behind, or not good with money. These beliefs quietly shape their actions. They hesitate, procrastinate, or settle for less, often without realizing why. When a person consistently begins the day with intentional words, especially words rooted in gratitude and trust, those words begin to rewrite identity from the inside out. Identity is formed through repetition and evidence. Every time you act in alignment with a belief, that belief strengthens. When someone wakes up each morning and affirms a grounded, trusting perspective, they provide daily evidence to their mind that they are someone who approaches life with stability rather than fear. Over time, this becomes the default self-concept. The person no longer feels like they are trying to be calm, confident, or abundant. They simply are. This shift changes behavior automatically. They speak differently, carry themselves differently, and make decisions that reflect their new self-image without forcing it. As identity changes, financial behavior changes naturally. A person who sees themselves as capable and supported does not chase quick fixes or fall for schemes that promise instant wealth. They are willing to learn, grow, and invest in long-term strategies. They handle money with more respect and less emotional charge. Budgeting, saving, negotiating, and planning stop feeling restrictive and start feeling empowering. These behaviors are not adopted through discipline alone, but through alignment with identity. People act in ways that feel consistent with who they believe they are. This identity shift also affects resilience. When challenges arise, a person with a strong, grounded self-concept does not collapse. They experience disappointment, but they do not internalize it as failure. Instead of thinking, "This always happens to me," they think, "This is something to learn from." This mindset keeps momentum alive. Momentum is essential for wealth building because progress often comes after periods of uncertainty. Those who quit early rarely fail because of lack of ability. They fail because their identity cannot tolerate discomfort. A stable identity can. Another important aspect of identity-based change is boundaries. When someone values themselves and trusts their path, they become more selective about where they invest their time, energy, and money. They say no more easily. They leave draining situations sooner. They choose environments that support growth. These boundaries protect resources and create space for opportunities that align with their values. Many financial struggles are the result of poor boundaries, not poor income. Identity determines boundaries, and boundaries determine outcomes. As identity stabilizes, consistency becomes effortless. The practice that once required intention now feels natural. Missing it feels strange, not because of guilt, but because it no longer matches who the person is. This is the point where change becomes self-sustaining. The person does not need external motivation or constant reminders. Their inner compass guides them. This autonomy is a form of wealth in itself, because it reduces dependence on external validation or circumstances. Social perception also shifts when identity changes. Others sense confidence and authenticity. Trust increases. People are more willing to collaborate, recommend, or invest. Leadership opportunities emerge, sometimes unexpectedly. This is not because the person is trying to impress, but because they are congruent. Congruence is magnetic. It signals reliability and integrity, qualities that attract long-term opportunities and financial stability. Over time, this identity-based alignment creates a new life trajectory. Decisions compound in a different direction. Risks are taken wisely. Effort is sustained. Learning continues. The person no longer feels at war with money or success. They feel in partnership with their growth. This partnership removes internal friction, allowing energy to be directed toward creation rather than resistance. In conclusion, the final and most powerful transformation happens when a daily practice reshapes identity. Words spoken consistently at the start of the day do more than influence mood. They redefine how a person sees themselves and their place in the world. This new self-image drives behavior effortlessly, supports resilience, strengthens boundaries, and attracts opportunities through authenticity and trust. Wealth grows most reliably when it aligns with identity, not when it is forced through struggle. By committing to consistent, intentional beginnings each morning, a person gradually becomes someone for whom abundance is not a distant goal, but a natural expression of who they are.